Welcome back to the Quiet on Set podcast powered by Cineman. I'm Ewan Graf, and as always, I'm joined by Lachlan Thiele.
It says episode 15. On episode 154, is the writer's strike over? Is this it? After 5 months, do we finally have an outcome, and an outcome that's positive for the writers?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I do have a bit of a mini breakdown here. If I seem a bit off, if I seem tired just by looking at me, that's because it's 6 a.m. in the morning and we are recording this before I head off to the second day at the Zurich Film Festival. So I already got a bit to tell you about the films that I watched there, like Dream Scenario, Fair Play, and Wicked Little Letters. But I'll tell you more about that in what we've been watching.
Finally, for our main topic today, it's the creator. It's Gareth Edwards' latest epic. It's the creator of Rogue One and Godzilla, the most recent big American live action Godzilla film. How does it stand up against these other entries? Well, we'll discuss that, but more importantly, how does it stand when it's sandwiched between Doom Part 1 and now pushed back Doom Part 2? I think you and I have a number of things you want to talk about this film.
Actually, I love that sandwich. I'd have a bite, definitely.
A Dune sandwich?
Let's queue up.
Dune Part 1,
Yes.
creator, Dune Part 2. Yeah, it's a good sandwich.
It's very sandy, though. Let's queue up the intro and get into the show. We are professionals.
This is a professional podcast.
Yes. Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Hello there. Which actually,
Did you
this
get
is gonna
me a
be
hat
a
as
bit,
well?
Yes.
So I've got Dune Cam. It's just a camera with my Dune steelbook.
All right. Welcome back, Lachlan. It's
Hello.
a big week.
Yes. For you.
A movie that you've been anticipating. Well, yeah, but I mean, you've been anticipating the creator for a while, right? You were pretty hyped.
Yeah,
So
I've been
looking
pretty
forward
excited
to
for
our
it.
discussion.
I wouldn't say I'm hyped. I don't want to say I was hyped. I don't get hyped. I don't want it to kind of ruin the expectations. So I wanted to go in as blind as possible for films that I would think I would be excited for. So yeah, maybe I was a bit hyped. Maybe I'm lying. Maybe I was a bit hyped. Maybe a little bit.
Would you say you're interested? Probably not hyped, just interested. You know, generally, you don't want to overhype it for the Scott Pilgrim animation adaptation with the returning cast and that whole ordeal. Did that
more or
catch your
less.
interest?
I wouldn't say I'm
Mhm.
like super keen to watch it. I think Scott Pilgrim's
Yeah.
original movie adaptation is good and perfect the way it is. But with the original voice cast coming back, that's pretty hype, I must say. So I don't
Yeah.
have anything against it, but yeah, I'm not fanatic for Scott Pilgrim. That's the thing. I don't know about you, but I like the movie. I do, but I don't really get hyped over the entire IP.
I feel like for Edgar Wright fans, there's definitely the ones that like Scott Pilgrim the most out of his entire filmography. That's not the case for me, but I totally understand if it is, because there's not a lot to not like about it. There's just a ton of great stuff in it. I don't know if I was convinced with what I've seen so far of the animation so far. Well, the animation looks fine. But then something about the voice cast stands out. But I don't know, maybe I'm sometimes just like not used to not voice actors in America doing the voice acting, but actors doing the voice acting, which they do a fine job. But it's just like it feels a bit off because Michael Cera sounds so different somehow.
He
as
does,
Scott.
doesn't
I
he?
don't
He
know
sounds
what it
older.
is.
But I mean, you can't stop that.
Yeah, you're a Hollywood person. How do you sound older, man? They should be eating like, I don't know, youth. They should be injecting themselves with young blood, like vampires. I don't know. It's just a recent Boy video. I don't know if you know them, but they did like a whole thing on this with like the Hollywood keeping themselves young by basically being vampires.
Oh.
But no. Well, speaking of vampires, we do have an update from the AMPTP and the
Nice.
WGA, who have
Nice.
reached a provisional agreement
Great
and
segue.
an actual agreement, seemingly. But the question is, like, the WGA definitely won. If you look at the deals that they've gotten, they have pretty much gained ground on everything that they asked for. Maybe not as much as we'd liked in some points, but how much did they actually win, and for how long did they win it for? So I'll break it down real quick for you, Lachlan, and the viewers here, and I'm actually curious what everyone thinks. So let us know in the comments below, because this is a tricky one. Because if you look at all of the the deals, then we see that there's been a minimum wage increase overall. This is, by the way, a 94-page doc with all of the legal proceedings, and
Oh,
I'm no lawyer. I don't understand all of the jargon, but I did have a quick read through it, and basically grab the most interesting stuff. Streaming residuals are now being given out to writers when they go over a certain threshold. When there's been a success where basically 20% of the domestic subscribers of a streaming service is watching something within the first 90 days, then they get a 50% bonus. This is calculated by the hours streamed divided by the runtime. Basically, also something where they get like your residual based on that, how many watch time hours it has. And just a rough estimate. This is also for only domestic for the States here. But 20% of, for example, Netflix's subscribers would be roughly 15 million. So just like to put that into context, how many people have to watch something. For me, it kind of struck me as there's a base increase in wage, but the actual bump is to writers who are like on something that actually is a bigger hit, and then they profit off of it. I'm sure there's like stuff in the background where when you create something new that you get residuals now, because it's not going to be open with how much watch time, how successful something is, but they are going to share it with the WGA, which is something great because they weren't offering that at all. But the initial deal was like to open it to I think 5 writers overall on the WGA, and work on a residual based system there. But they got that, so that's a huge one that they ended up getting. There's also something about the bonuses specifically, like depending on how long it is. There's also something about the budgeting that's different. When like something's a higher budget production, then you do get more of a bonus here. But that's just all of the numbers that are that not that interesting overall. Another thing that they got was the minimum staffing. They had huge success here because obviously the studios want to save as much money and hiring less people to do more of the work, and they got a bunch of stuff here that secures them staff for a while, that like a minimum of I think 6 writers have to be on if it's a 9-episode series. What we can see here as a consequence, though, where you can see it maybe as a bit of a loss, is the way that the studios could save money is that we get more of these like 3 episodes and 6-episode shows, because it would ultimately mean that they would need less writers for the amount of time that they're writing for. Just an overall thing for this just means if there's a money that goes out here that they're gonna pay the writers, even if they are like still making a shit ton of profit, as we've seen with the breakdowns of how much it actually would be for them. Maybe we're not gonna see as many productions, and this maybe gonna be overall a bit less work because the studios are just gonna try to save money somehow. Yeah, I feel like it was overcrowded, and once the actual work of the people who get to work is increased, then maybe it's a bit more of a livable wage, and hopefully it will balance itself out, but we don't know yet. And then the last big thing was obviously AI, and here is the most maybe a more on the worrying side, because for the time being they got what they wanted for, which is the models not be trained on them and their new work. But I think if I read this correctly, they are still able to kind of quietly train this in the background. And basically what it said, again, I'm no lawyer, I don't know if I completely understood it, is that the WGA is actually kind of just waiting until something actually happens, because once the studios end up doing something with AI, and I feel like they're cooking something up in the background for sure, then you can kind of fight it in a legal way, in court and maybe in front of the law. And until that's happening, it's so kind of in a non-disclosed, like not defined area at the moment, that it's really hard to fight against. Now, the biggest thing where I feel like this is only a temporary win, that's why I teased that in the beginning, is that this is an agreement that is running out on May 1st in 2026. And they come back to disclose a new deal or to work on a new deal every 3 days and usually 3 years, sorry. And usually when it's not like a big year like this, there's gonna be like a couple of requests at the WGA, and then they meet somewhere in the middle, and it's a quick ordeal. Obviously wasn't this year. The studios just gave way a lot of ground on basically everything that they asked for, that it's a bit sus. It's a bit sus. Like, why were they now being so giving in a lot of things? And it feels like they're like trying to get a bit more on their good side for now, while they're like working in the background. That's just like my mind working as the the literal Disney villains that Bob Iger has like turned out to be in the background from his comments, or like them being ungrateful and stuff. But I don't know, Lachlan, seeing this overall, what do you think? Obviously short term, this is a great win, right?
Short term, yes, but also for an immediate getting people back to work so they can be paid. I think that even though it's only been 5 months and it's barely even been as long as the longest strike, I feel like striking to get better pay is important. But these guys haven't had work for months, so getting them back into the industry, get them some money so they can have a freaking life and an income and survive. That's a big one for me. But still, the AI thing is very interesting. Like how they there's not really a win on that side, and that's obviously the biggest buzzword right now is AI. It's everywhere, right? And it's obvious that pay was one of them. That's the biggest thing, to have a livable wage. They've got that increase. That's great. They can get back to work. But what happens when the AI that's been trained on previous work doesn't require them to work anymore? So it's a double-edged sword. They've got a couple years to see what they can do. They can possibly watch other spaces, because more and more as AI is trained on people's work, there will be more and more lawsuits going in. So if the WGA can see those outcomes, whether they are a win or lose, they could possibly build a really good case on beating the case of not having their work trained, or AI trained on their previous work. So it's interesting, isn't it?
I feel like it's very interesting. I mean, it's in different fields as well. If you just look at Adobe, like a product that we always use for editing and everything, recording here, it's another tricky one where they recently, I think, announced that they're gonna have their AI-based Firefly side cost money as well if you want to have it. Up until now, it was kind of in a beta stage, and they have used it. You were able to use it for free. This is also trained on the stock photos that have been uploaded by photographers onto the Adobe suite, and obviously they're licensing it out to Adobe for them to license it out to users. But it's I think just like they just ended up using it for the training here, and obviously didn't compensate them any further. And ultimately, like, stock photos is something that could be something where it gets to a point where it's already is at a pretty much a great place with like the generative fill features on Photoshop, and he saw like changes so quickly, like the amount of possibilities you have with it. I mean, you used AI recently to work on thumbnails, right? It's like it's creeping in, and it's definitely something we can't push out. You can't push against it. The current's too strong, but it's just a question of how many jobs in the creative field will be left behind. How can we incorporate them still to be in there, to have that human touch? Because otherwise, like, I think this week's May movie obviously has like a huge focus on AI, and I found that one to be quite
different
interesting.
style of AI though. That's the only thing. AI in the creator is definitely very different to AI in the real world, but
It is. I also found it really interesting how it's portrayed, but we'll get into that later on, because it feels obviously it was made before, but it feels like a kind of a reaction. But yeah, that's that. So let us know what you think about the strike. What's still going on is the actor strike. They're not over. The SAG-AFTRA union is still on strike, and I don't know if the writers there was initially they were saying that they were gonna strike alongside them, but now I think it's they also said from the union that it's okay to go back to work. since then, we want to be doing this now, but there's been a bunch of announcements since the strike was basically over. Like the biggest one that I caught was they're doing an Office reboot, which is great. All of the
Let's see how that
actors have
goes.
been doing so much like podcasting stuff and all of that. They've just capitalized on that property for a long time, so I guess it's just a gimme for them. But this is though laying the groundwork for the SAG-AFTRA negotiations for the actors, and the ground that the WGA has gained is definitely gonna benefit the actors here. So I feel like they're also gonna meet on Monday. This episode should be out on Tuesday, so maybe over the next week, there's maybe we're gonna have a deal by the end of the week, which would be phenomenal. Everyone going back to work, but that's pretty much it for the news. It was a big news, and maybe the last time we're gonna talk about the writer's strike. Maybe a couple more times we're gonna talk about the actor strike now, but yeah, a bit more actual news here in that segment, movie news. Today we're talking about the creator, and with that, I do have a tie-in discussion time question for you. And we've been doing this for a couple of weeks for different genres, and I kind of want to know what you think the current state of sci-fi is at the moment.
Oh, that's exciting. Because defining sci-fi is bloody difficult. I guess
Mm-hmm.
sci-fi makes its way into a lot of different films,
Right.
but it's been creeping up. I'm glad you listed those letterboxed links there, where I can kind of have a glance at the most recent sci-fi, or at least big sci-fi films. And
Yeah.
like the first one that's on there, like there's sci-fi elements, but my brain first wouldn't go, yeah, that's a sci-fi movie, and that's Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like it has
Yeah.
interdimensional travel. My brain doesn't go, oh yeah, sci-fi, Everything Everywhere All at Once, because there's so much more associated
Yeah.
with it. And it's the same
Mm-hmm.
thing with like Spider-Man, No Way Home, right? Because again,
Yeah.
they across the multiverse. So now every single multiverse movie is a sci-fi movie. But if we look at
Yeah.
the next couple, you've got Dune, great example. You've got Nope, it's a horror movie but has sci-fi elements. Avatar
Mm-hmm.
2, Way of Water, that's a sci-fi. Guardians of the Galaxy,
Yeah.
that's a great one. I could probably say that it is. Yes, it is sci-fi because it is set in space. Tenant, but then again, it's like, is Tenant science fiction, or is it more just like a fantasy world? I like it's sci-fi elements because it's involving time, but it's like really hard to define a sci-fi. Like my
Yeah.
brain wouldn't define Tenet as a Interstellar, that's a sci-fi.
Easy. That's an
Maybe
easy one.
but-
Yeah.
and then I go Inception, but Inception's like dreams. Like, is it sci-fi? Is it science fiction? It's like sci-fi is a very
Mhm.
loose genre, but I think that elements of sci-fi have made it into a lot of films, and it's good because I find sci-fi a very powerful genre to present ideas, because
Yes.
sci-fi
New
is
ideas as well.
new ideas. It's very creative
Mm-hmm.
because you have a lot of freedom with sci-fi, because the point of sci-fi is that it's science fiction. It doesn't have to exist, but it's based, I guess, in a scientific like idea of it all, right? So you can
Mhm.
present Avatar's a great one, right? Set in space, but a basic colonialism bad story, right? That's
Mhm.
Avatar's meaning over all
Mhm.
of the action. Honestly, it's a terrible
Yeah.
example because it's Avatar, right? It's like it's
It's
more
also
of
a bit
a
fantasy to me.
blockbuster.
I don't know.
It's a bit fantasy,
Yeah.
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 But then you've got something like what's on here? What's also another good White Noise? I mean, that's a great example of a sci-fi with sort of blowing things out of proportion. After Yang, a great
Yeah.
example of like human condition. That's on my top 4
Mhm.
right now. Space Jam.
Space
That's a
Jam.
great-
It's a
that's a
new
great one.
legacy, by the way. The new one.
Moonfall, don't
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
in conspiracy theory. But like the reason I like sci-fi is just like it can present a lot of ideas, and we'll get into that with the creator for what it presents to you.
Yeah.
But it presents a lot of interesting elements. Like, even though Nope was at the end of the film, most people go, what the fuck? Like, you can do that with sci-fi. You can go places people don't go with the design of a creature of an alien,
Mhm.
because it doesn't exist. You can use your imagination. And it's the same thing as fantasy. We used to be absorbed with fantasy before science took this big impact in our life, and technology wasn't as like available. Like I've got on my desk right now a speaker, a computer, a phone, a watch, 3 sets of headphones. Don't ask me what. 4 sets of headphones. Don't ask me why. Like we have an abundance of science products from scientific discoveries in our possession now. And ever
Yeah.
since, like, I guess the boom of science, like 50s and 60s, we've kind of been fascinated with sci-fi a bit more than what we're fascinated with fantasy, right? We don't have a lot of
Hmm.
fantasy IPs coming out compared to sci-fi because we used to be more
Yeah.
obsessed with dragons and knights and swords and fights and things like that. And now we're kind of looking at the future and what the possibility is because back then this wasn't a possibility. You know, we still had very small minded brains, like just set on the earth. We didn't really think past that. But ever since we put
Mm.
man on the moon, we're thinking beyond that. Let's think beyond the moon and what that world could be or what another world could be. So that's why I love sci-fi. Sci-fi is fucking excellent. There's my rants of sci-fi. What do you think of sci-fi?
I think it holds a great potential, especially for new stories. Like if you look at what's been the most successful, maybe in the top 20 in the box office this year, one other film that's also wholly original in that whole section there is Megan, which is definitely a horror film, but it's also sci-fi, right? That's not
Mm,
based on anything, and that's so rare. And I think the creator is as well, right? It's not based on anything else.
yeah.
And I feel like it holds itself a space. It's a space for creators to basically craft a wholly new world full of their ideas, which is in filmmaking terms always incredibly hard to do. And I feel like we've had a couple of recent versions of sci-fi movies that have done an amazing job at establishing the world. I don't know if I could have a better example than basically Dune. It was really well done. Same with not of this decade, but I guess last decade with Blade Runner 2049. But then there's also just a ton of like you said, like the multiverse stuff that's just kind of been creeping up, and that's sci-fi adjacent because everything in that superhero world is just like a bit over the top. And I don't think we get a ton of sci-fi because it's also like it's a big risk for studios when it's not tied to their IP, like superheroes.
Do you
Yes.
mean pure sci-fi?
Pure, yes. That blue stuff.
We don't get like pure sci-fi anymore, where it's entirely like a Dune, like a The Creator, where it is very much sci-fi based because a lot of the films on this list that I'm
Yeah.
looking at, sci-fi is just an aspect of the film.
I feel like we have started to do, but maybe that's just like something that I'm noticing now, and it's always been the case. The genre mixing is definitely something that I feel like has gotten, I don't know, just more prolific. It is more of it happening now,
It's true.
uh, and
Star Wars used to
that
be a
might be the
space
case.
western. Now it's actually also a space noir and also
Yeah.
space X genre here. Like it's a great example. It does evolve.
Yeah, and I don't know what do you think its next state will be, and I don't know if we define what its current state is, but if I'm looking at the lineup of upcoming films, just for this year and next year, it does have some interesting directors working on stuff. I mean, later in the year we getting
Yeah.
Zack Snyder's Star Wars take with Rebel Moon. Then we are getting the Lion director Gareth Davis is doing like some small sci-fi thing with Foe there that has me really interested. Bong Joon-ho is doing Mickey 17 with Robert Pattinson. That looks quite interesting to me too. And then there's Francis Ford Coppola working on a film again, Megalopolis, that once once it comes out, I think they did test screenings of it in Venice this year. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. And Furiosa and the next Mad Max movie, and obviously 17 Avatar films. Uh, I feel like that there's gonna be some original ideas and some great craftsmanship from filmmakers in the genre. And I'm curious what its next stage will be and how much it will focus on the tech that is kind of on our horizon versus like wholly different ideas, because it's always kind of an escape, right? How much further do you glimpse into the future to close your eyes in the current day, in a sense? But I don't know how much it is that anymore. Star Wars was definitely
Yeah.
that. I don't know how much we do that, because we, in a lot of our media, I have this discussion a bunch of times when I'm in the theater and just someone comes up to me and they're like, why is your program like, I don't know, why are there so many films showing where it's a heavy subject? And it almost feels like there needs to be like some heaviness to even legitimize dramatizing a story and filming it and getting it on there. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think like film was ever this lighthearted thing. But yeah. What do you think? What do you think? What's the next stage?
I think that you put out a really good point with the fact that we've now got this really awesome technology to do some really visually cool things. The Star Wars tech that they've been doing with those massive LED panels is awesome, and I feel like we've had films that kind of push, and science fiction has always kind of pushed visual effects in film. Star Wars is the best example of that, where ILM wouldn't exist without Star Wars. Star Wars pushed,
Yeah.
and Star Wars, if it didn't exist, I mean, we wouldn't have some really good advancements in visual effects. And the thing is with sci-fi, it's very visual effect heavy. We have a lot of examples of 2001, how that changed visual effects from what it did and how it can go further, and that Star Wars did the same thing. And I think the same thing when Blade Runner 2049 come out. Bless its soul, flopped at the box office, but I think it did a really awesome thing and reinvigorated people's love for sci-fi and massive sci-fi epics. We hadn't had one in a
Yeah.
very long time, where it was just,
Mhm.
this is just a beautiful, epic film. Thanks to Roger Deakins, thanks to Denis Villeneuve, and now Denis Villeneuve is doing Dune, and Dune is just a massive epic among itself, and everyone's going to jump on that bandwagon. I absolutely cannot wait for Rebel Moon, because it's going to be kind of like, I don't think it's going to be that sci-fi epic, but it's going to be that fun sci-fi that I love, like a Star Wars, right? I mean, it was a Star Wars, but it's going to be like having the fun with the sci-fi, this crazy world. I just found out about Francis Ford Coppola's
Megalopolis.
Megalopolis. That sounds wicked.
Yeah.
An architect wants to rebuild New York City as a utopia following a devastating disaster. Sign me up, right? Like, if we're going to get a return to form on like sci-fi epics, man, I'm super, super excited, because low budget
Yeah.
sci-fi has been killing it, and it's finally time for it to make it to the mainstream and get into some major money hands and let those independent guys get that money. I can also see that Alex Garland has a new action epic set in a near future America from Alex Garland. It's called Civil War. Dude,
Mhm.
sign me up.
Yeah.
I'm ready for this next wave.
Sign me up as well. Make that a double deal.
Give me another Alien film.
They're definitely going to be working on those, and we're definitely going to get more Predator films. I feel like they've been doing something a bit new with that franchise as well. And I'm not getting franchise fatigue for most of the sci-fi properties other than the superhero stuff, because I feel like there's more for them to do. Like even Avatar, like both films I didn't love. I feel like there's still like so much. There's a lot of merit in that, like things worth checking out. So let's get to what we've been watching. So yeah, Lachlan, what have you been up to this week?
Not a lot, because I'm going camping this weekend, which is it's great that we
exciting.
had to record this early, because
Lots of prep to do.
I wasn't gonna. Yeah, I'm leaving in like 3 hours, and as I said, like I told you this before, but I'm charging like a whole bunch of stuff on my desk right now for the trip.
Yeah.
Because I take all my gear for photography and stuff. So I'm having a great, nice, relaxing weekend. But I haven't watched Ahsoka episode 7 yet. Have you?
Me neither. No.
Okay.
I haven't
I'm
had a
considering
chance.
I'm considering, because next week is the last episode, I believe. Just doing a double feature of it, so I've got to kind of keep off the internet, which is great because I'm going away for the weekend. Won't have reception off the internet, so I won't have any spoilers done. So I'm considering that. If not, I'll probably just download it and just watch it when I fall asleep in the next couple of days. But I watched No One Will Save You, that sci-fi movie you watched last week, because I saw it. I added it to my watch list because I heard it was getting rave positive stuff about it. Decided to watch list it. Actually added to my watch list on Disney Plus first because I was on Disney Plus here. And then I saw it on Letterboxd and I listed it on there. And then all of a sudden it started being like, hey, everyone should watch this movie. And I was like, sick. Hell yeah, I'll watch it. And I decided to finally give it a watch, and awesome. How great was that film? Get out of nowhere. Just like so much fun. I had a great time. I didn't like how they showed the monster really early on in the film, but other than that, I thought it was spectacular. And I love the ending. Forget what everybody else says. I thought the ending was so fun.
I love the ending too.
So
it's
yeah,
weird sci-fi. I love it. Give us more of it. Simple story.
Shame we didn't hear much about it before it came out, because I thought that would have been a really fun episode, like a really fun main topic for the episodes of the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely been like more interest for certain things. I've noticed with some episodes getting more views than others. For example, I feel like no one cared about Gran Turismo. That movie just like came out.
Everyone should have cared about Gran Turismo. It was so good.
Is that sincere? I don't remember you being super positive on the film.
No. But that's all I watched because it's been a short week. It's been last recorded.
Yeah, and I mean, for me as well, I didn't really watch that much over the course of the week. But then yesterday, I ended up watching 5 new films at the Zurich Film Festival. One of them is Lachlan's, I think last week he said, hopefully favorite movie of the year, with Nick Cage, the A24 produced Dream Scenario from Christopher Brigoli or something like that. I watched his other film, is a Norwegian director, I think, last week as well. And I forget what it's called. But that one was quite interesting too. This one, I think what people have been saying, that it's struggling with 2 identities, is definitely the case. If you don't mind, a kind of a really big gear shift, more like, hey, I'm stopping the car, the brakes are on, I'm getting into a different content, I'm driving off. It's more than that. It's not just a gear shift. Then you'll be fine with it. You just have to kind of go along with it. But the idea of someone popping up in your dreams is such a great one that I wish it would have stayed like with that a bit longer. It's an incredible Nick Cage performance, and I was the entire time I was watching, it's like I was not watching it through the lens of like, do I enjoy this? The whole time I was like, I'm watching this. Will Lachlan enjoy this as well? I don't know. And then I was trying to predict that. I'm not entirely sure. I think you'll like it. You might even like it a bit more than me, but it's hard to tell. But I think you should. That's still what you
said
about.
That's what you said about this film, the creator.
Yes, because I seem to not be. I was more confident like a year or 2 ago on what you like, and not as much anymore. I don't know what changed, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not as confident in guessing. Then there was also another film that premiered in TIFF, because Dream Scenario was also playing at the Toronto Film Festival. Nyad, the real life story of Diana Nyad, who did a 110-mile open ocean swim from Cuba to Florida when she was over 60. It's a 2-hour-long movie where you can feel that it's 2 hours long, because it's essentially like a story where you go in and you know what's going to happen by the end. So you're just kind of waiting for it to happen. But then it's also a story about someone's endurance and just kind of standing against like swimming against the current literally here, and basically standing in for 2 big things. Like, you're never too old to go after your dreams, and you should never stop trying. And in that case, it's a bit all over the place, because it's lead and Benning and Nyad. She's never out to be like this nice person to be around. She seems to be like this hyper focused person who's just like putting anything behind this, like her highest priority is achieving something like this. And then has some weird approaches in editing where it cuts back into flashbacks, and there's a ton of editing that's happening and visuals to make her swimming interesting. Overall, I didn't mind it. I think by the end of it, it was getting quite emotional, and it pulls at your heartstrings. This is gonna be another a Netflix movie. I wouldn't say I'd recommend it. It comes from the directors who've done Free Solo, and didn't really see like that come through their filmmaking style there, but maybe they just need weird subjects, like the lead guy in Free Solo, and then they could just like let them talk. The last film I watched last night was Wicked Little Letters, and that one was another really interesting movie where the trailer is basically giving you this clash between Olivia Colman and Jessie Buckley, who one of them is a devout Christian, and the other one is the supposed wicked letter writer that's very graphic in what she sends to that older lady who's played by Olivia Colman. I think the movie has a ton of jokes that it's going for. I see like the people who saw it at TIFF really liked it. I didn't really like it, to be honest. It comes together a bit by the end, but I didn't find it really funny because it's like a period piece, 1920, so all of the jokes are basically like, doesn't the patriarchy sucks sexism, but from the lens of current times. So you obviously don't have the modern thing in there, which is fine in itself, but I didn't find it that funny. That was just the main problem. I didn't really laugh. But yeah, that's that. Only mild recommendation. And then another Netflix movie that's out before we do our next recording. So I kind of want to do a main episode on this one because it was really interesting. For a while, it was like really close to like a 9 out of 10 to me, and then it just kind of didn't stick the landing fully. But it's fair play. It's about a couple that has to hide that they're a couple in this financial firm, where it's really just like a cutthroat environment. And one of them gets a promotion, the woman, when he kind of thinks he's about to get it, and then just like it just slowly spirals. He doesn't seem to be coping with it as well as he lets on in the front, and it's really well done. Overall, I think it's such a thrilling movie. I was locked in the entire time. I was like leaning forward in my seat, and then yeah, it just kind of lost me a bit in the end. But overall, luckily, you definitely have to check this out. This is out, I think, this week on Netflix or next week.
Cool.
But that's all I've been watching, more or less. There's also, starting now, and by the time this episode comes out, all of the Wes Anderson shorts will be on Netflix. We'll be talking about those next week. I was trying to put on The Swan, the second one, last night when I came back after like the first 5-movie day in Zurich, and it was just too Wes Anderson for me. Even the movie gave me a headache. Just like I had to lie down. So just be in for the most Wes Anderson experience ever. I know you like that usually, so I'm really curious to hear your opinions on it, and let us know if you've already caught it. What do you think of it? But that's what we've been watching this week. Apart from The Creator, the latest film from Gareth Edwards. We talked about it, the rare original sci-fi that we're getting here, with a focus on the coexistence, the not so, peaceful coexistence between humans and AI. So, Lachlan, could you read us the logline for the movie?
Amid a future war between the human race and the forces of artificial intelligence, Joshua, a hardened ex-Special Forces agent, grieving the disappearance of his wife, is recruited to hunt down and kill the Creator, the elusive architect of advanced AI who has developed a mysterious weapon with the power to end the war and mankind itself.
That is a strange hitman mission that we're getting here, but
Yeah.
that's what it is. We got John David Washington as the lead here, as Joshua, as someone I'd call the protagonist, similar to what he's called in Tenet. The shorter, I forgot what this is called, but just like the one line thing for this on Letterboxd, it says, "This is a fight for our very existence," and I feel like they do make a point in that a couple of times in the movie as well. They're like, this is it. And it's really interesting what they tend to do with it. The movie runs 133 minutes long. It's a bit too early for us because we are basically recording this on the day it comes out to go over ratings. The Metacritic score, I think at the time, at least I didn't look it up since yesterday. I don't know if it's even up, but so far
65
it's
right
it's
now.
getting 65. Oh, that's quite low actually. Okay, that's surprising.
IMDb is currently at a 7.3.
Oh, okay. So when I looked, it was a 7.8. So I don't know why it's going down. Letterboxd was a 3.5. What is it now? That's actually so interesting.
Letterboxd?
It's a 3.6. So if Letterboxd is
Hmm.
the only one where it's going up. And Metacritic wasn't out by then. It was made with an I think estimated $80 million budget, and hopefully, like, this is something that I do want to, like, usually I don't really care about the numbers, but for something original, for something sci-fi, for something basically outside the main studio system. Obviously, we are here attached to Searchlight, which is Disney, but comparing that to other films like Ant-Man or the Indiana Jones that cost like over 300 million, here in this movie you can really see where the money went. And maybe we can kick it off with that. I feel like we're gonna give an overall spoiler warning for the review. So if you haven't seen it yet, go out to theaters and go watch the creator at the top of this review. I can already tell you it's worth checking out. It's worth your time. It's worth your money. But Lachlan, what do you think? What do you think about this? Like, there's a smaller budget comparatively for a big sci-fi film like this, and it's just really clean. Well, why do you think that is? That someone like Gareth Edwards can make such a rich world with comparatively in Hollywood on Hollywood scales, not that rich money, not that much money.
Because Gareth Edwards knows that more money doesn't mean a better film. It all really
More money, more problems.
does come from a creator, and you
Yeah.
don't really need a lot of money to make a good movie. I think a great
Mhm.
example in that sci-fi space of a very popular sci-fi movie that was made on a very smaller budget compared to others and looks visually incredible. District 9. That's
Oh
like my
yeah,
favorite example of a
Neil
film that's
Blomkamp.
made
Yeah.
on a way smaller
Mhm.
budget but has CGI that looks incredible, and it built a phenomenal world that's believable. And
Yeah.
I don't think it's impossible. I don't think it's impossible that people are like, oh, if you have a lot of money, then you can make a good movie. No, that's not the fact. Christopher Nolan's a great example of that, because his bigger films with bigger money often flop more than his smaller films with smaller money. So
Yeah.
we saw that when we did his most recent film Oppenheimer. We did like a little breakdown of his like bigger films, like Dunkirk was smaller but made more money, but then Tenet was made on like triple the budget and then was a terrible film. So yeah, it is all about the world and how you kind of show it through visual storytelling, not so much
Mhm.
like telling audience of what happens, like actually showing it. And I feel like the film doesn't shy away from showing some pretty horrific things happening.
Yeah, I found that really, really interesting too. And like, to me, something that I saw in an interview recently, I think it was even Letterboxd who did it, was him going down going over why he shot it. He was able to shoot it for that amount of money, why he was shooting it for cheap, basically. Where he said in a lot of these bigger productions that he's also been a part of, the like the amount of people working on it does get a bit bloated, so you ultimately restrict it to always shoot on in the studio. So you're working then with more roundabout ways to always use green screen, blue screen, whatever. And he kept his essential crew smaller, and they were just like traveling around the world to shoot what they got, and it shows so much. It looks stunning. This movie looks stunning. I think from similar to some of his other work, you can see like a ton of visual inspirations that he takes. It's the way that he kind of tries to assemble a cut as well, where he like takes from other movies and basically crafts a narrative. And through that, I feel like the creator is a culmination of a lot of different things. I think it has a bunch of inspirations from like the Vietnam War era, the way that like we used to shoot those type of movies, and then also more recent sci-fi, and like District 9 is another great example. I feel like the small scale world building that also works on a larger scale, that in District 9 we obviously don't really see much outside of the actual district and the world there, and here he does get to expand it, which is really exciting, and it's also so hard to pull off.
Oh yeah.
And I think the best thing about the creator is the world building. Would you agree, or where do you see its strengths?
Exactly. It was a world that I was immediately thrown into, and I just wanted to learn more and more about it.
Mhm.
It's not really a spoiler, but the whole reason there's a war is that there was a nuclear bomb detonated in LA, and
Mhm.
one of my favorite aspects of this film is that the USA is the bad guy, and to me that
Yeah.
was super entertaining to have, because usually in a film, a massive sci-fi film like this, that's set on Earth, America's the good guy, right?
Mhm.
But in this case, I took it very similar to Avatar, where it's like the big army is the bad, and the
Mhm.
smaller group, the less powerful group, is the good. And for me, that was super exciting to have a character who was on one side, and again, this is very Avatar, on one side, be on the other, and then is
Mhm.
conflicted on which side he wants to be on. And for
Yeah.
me, as I said, the visuals is one of the best parts, and because it's made on such a small budget, we should be praising this film for how it has achieved
Yes.
what should be done on a $300 million budget, but smaller. And it's incredible that he went around with a small team, and we can thank technology
Mhm.
getting better. And we said this, right? We have like very powerful small cameras now that you can just use and take around with you. You don't need to lug like a massive rig to shoot a film. We're not shooting it on these massive
Mhm.
like 70 millimeter IMAX films anymore, or even like 35
Mhm.
millimeter, and like all of these like cameras have gotten smaller, technology's gotten better, and it allows you for this really gritty style of filmmaking. I thought that the filmmaking style outside of New Asia was quite gritty, and that's a great example of like how Vietnam War films were shot, where it was almost like it was there. You were engulfed with what was happening in the film. So for me,
Yeah.
it's that, and then to add on to that, the visual storytelling is incredible. From a narrative telling standpoint, for me, if we're going to start getting into critiquing this film, I think there's a lot of issues with the script, the script, the story, the dialogue, and unfortunately, that's all screenplay issues. For me, those are the
Yeah.
film's biggest weaknesses. But the thing is, it's not the performances and it's not the direction
Yeah.
for me. Um,
No. Yeah. Yeah.
because I feel like there's not a single bad performance. Each of these actors and actresses are incredible at their job. Even the newcomer Madeline, who played Alfie, did a pretty awesome job, in my opinion. I feel like that the film has a really crappy story and dialogue that's very AI written, and I think some people are going to make that like like they're gonna be like,
Yeah.
oh, it was written by Chat GTP or whatever, or Bing Chat or whatever. But the film it feels very robotic, the dialogue, but
Mhm.
the visual storytelling is incredible. And the moment I realized that was when Alfie climbs the bridge, and Joshua climbs the bridge, and there's that really, well, I'll get to this in a second, funny robot bomb that the Americans have, that basically just runs into the target's location and blows up. And it's across a
Mhm.
bridge. And visually storytelling, right? Joshua is a character who, and we'll get to characters in a second, doesn't know where he stands, right? He used to be on the
Yeah.
American side, but now he's, because the loss of his wife, is lost and doesn't know which side he's on. So putting him in the middle of a bridge, and he only has two ways to go, is a great way of showing his internal thoughts and feelings on the matter. And he picks a
Yeah. Yeah.
direction. That's great visual storytelling. That's great.
Yeah.
He has to physically move one direction.
And when the conflict comes to a head, he can't even put it off any longer. He does have to make a choice immediately. I feel like the bridge there is one of the best moments in the movie. It's quite strong. I was initially, when he pops up and he just climbs up, it's like, that's a random way to shoehorn him into the story. And it's like, well, I guess this kind of works for me now. Madeline also gets the I don't hate you kid pass from me. I think she's really great.
The ultimate award. Forget the best picture nomination. It's Ewan's I don't think you're a terrible child actor award.
Yeah, no newcomer here needed. You're right about that. The screenplay is unfortunately the weakest part about it, where it does tend to be a bit repetitive. The story also takes a while to get going, and it in the beginning sets up the relationship between Gemma Chan's Maya, who you definitely will know by the end of it. You know, sometimes you go out of a movie and you don't know what the character's name is. By the end of this, you definitely know that her name is Maya. And there's also Joshua. Yeah, their relationship is kind of set up, but Joshua.
Who? I know Maya.
He's like, look, I don't know what it is with John David Washington. You said there wasn't a bad performance in it. I feel like the script made me think that this performance is not that great, if I'm being honest.
No,
because
his performance
something was
fine.
just missing. I think he was fine as well. I just like, it was my first thought. Like, is there something missing that he's missing in giving this? But I feel like ultimately there's not much to this character that is like super interesting, other than being a surrogate in there of like, hey, how do I view this world? And as it shifts, obviously, like, our perspective shifts as well. It's a nice storytelling narrative device, and I like him for that. He's useful, but I don't find him intriguing as a character.
Let me tell you why. And I came.
Yes.
And this is my train. This is you don't have to agree with me, but this is my train of thought. Okay, because I've had a couple days to sit on this. And that's great because I like sitting on films and thinking about it, and I cannot wait to rewatch this film. It's actually a film that I'm very keen to rewatch. But there are too many characters. Hear me out. We need to get rid of.
Yeah.
We need to get rid of the big bad army guy. You know, the one that's only in like the shots with the glasses. I don't know his name. Drew? Is it Drew? No, that's not.
What you mean?
General
the one
Andrews.
That's just...
General Andrews,
right.
Okay? General Andrews, cut him out. Get rid of him. Okay? Make Colonel Howell, make her the bad guy. Because that's all we need. That is all we need. One bad guy. And she was killing it. Because she was ruthless. We cut to her a few times, and she is just ruthless with getting a job done. And that is the best part. One of my favorite parts of this film is her and that guy just driving around in the police car doing stupid shit. Because that was an engaging antagonist who wasn't actually engaging in bad stuff, just following up where they were, just behind their tail. And that's why I was excited for her. But then this General Andrews dude would just rock up and give exposition, and he's pointless, right? I don't need him. I don't need McBride to come back as his friend. Get rid of him. Not necessary. While Ken Wannabe's Harren is cool, is like, he's a cool character, and I love Ken Wannabe. He can be in any film he wants to be because he's like the coolest guy ever. But actually, you know what? Maybe keep him. But strip back the characters. Strip them back.
Yeah.
We don't need that many because ultimately the only two characters that matter
AI.
is Joshua and Alfie. They're the only two characters that matter, and the only thing that matters in this film is their relationship. And their relationship doesn't have enough time to build. It does not. At all.
I think ultimately it wants to build to that, but he's not. There's still a distance between the two because she's AI, and I think he like, the movie centers still around like the Maya relationship and how that goes over to Alfie. And I feel like that first relationship isn't strong enough to make that connection meaningful, because I immediately was more invested in the relationship between Joshua and Alfie, and never really that much between Maya. I had written her off, and she seems to be such a focus of the story.
So get rid of Maya's like story arc of how obsessed he is, right? Make her less, but focus more on Joshua and Alfie's relationship, to the point that and keep Maya's return in, right? Keep that
Yeah,
scene
yeah, yeah.
in, because I thought that scene was very powerful, and that can be
Mhm.
sort of the just before the big finale, because I think the finale part is a bit, in my honest opinion, boring, because again, I don't think the relationship has been built enough for them to be able to take down Nomad, which again, Nomad, coolest visual fucking thing in the entire film, hands down.
Yeah.
Anytime I saw a
So
laser beam, I
terrifying.
was freaking out, because it was just, that is just pure death. That is just, you see a laser,
Yeah.
you're dead. So that was crazy. But we just needed a story, which was just Joshua and Alfie's relationship on moving from point A to point B. Getting them hunted down by the New Asia police is perfect, because it puts them on the run. It puts them in a vulnerable position to make stupid mistakes, and that is going to build their relationship to survive. Joshua needs Alfie for a particular reason, to find Maya. Having Maya kind of still be alive is a nice idea, but to be obsessed with it is just, let it drive, but make a reason for Joshua to care for Alfie earlier on, and have more of that relationship building. Like, that conversation of heaven on the bus was like the best, like, 30 seconds of dialogue between the two characters, because it was like, no, this seems to be all of a sudden like a father-daughter relationship, and have that reveal be more meaningful, where it's like, you are technically its father. Like, that's how you can see it. Maya is the mother, you are the father. That is the easiest way of seeing it. And let there be a moment where Alfie's kind of like, instead of saying Joshua, like, be like Papa or something, or like Dad, or like say something where it's like, no, that's fucking heartbreaking to see them separated. So, because at the end, right, it's what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, I'm also blanking on it right now.
Reconnection. Fuck it. Reconnection between Maya and Joshua.
Reunion.
And that should reunion. That's the word I'm looking for. Get rid of that, right? You know what would have been, and this is me jumping around a lot with the film, because I obviously what are we at now? An hour recording. We like hour-long recordings at this point. But
yes.
But the thing at the end of the film where they take down Nomad is it becomes a reunion between Joshua and Maya, and it should have been Maya's dead. Have that reunion done, right? Let that reunion be done. Let her be available to be talked to through like a computer before they actually put her down. I think the fact that the simulants couldn't kill her is a great thing to get him to her, so that he can ultimately turn her off, right? And that would have been cute, right? Off. Like that there was also very cute. Again, best part of my favorite part of the film. But if they just had it where Maya was there still, off, it's a relationship now between Alfie and Joshua. It basically becomes father and daughter. The final Nomad, this ultimate sacrifice of Joshua, and Alfie says like Dad or Papa instead of Joshua at the end. That would have tugged the heartstrings way more, especially if they built that relationship from the start. Like that would have been the best part of this film. Like, cut all the other characters out, forget that relationship, just have these two, and then because there's no sequel. Like, there's not a sequel happening.
The creators, I don't know. There's more of them. Like you touched on it at the start that that you liked. Yeah, Return of Nomad. It's Nomadland actually.
Ayo.
Yeah, you touched on it at the start that the Americans are the bad ones here, and they're at war with New Asia through this threat of AI, and ultimately I like how they use the US as this war-hungry nation that's basically just justifying that, yes, we need to do this, we're gonna be exterminated, otherwise this is our last front. And then the dichotomy there of not understanding where the issue actually is. I don't know, what do you think? Because at at first when they were like, no, AI is all about coexistence, and I thought it was a bit of a cop-out to basically make the human characters the easy bad guys and not really tackle maybe the more nuanced worthy AI thing where there could be like good and bad AI. But I found it, by the end of it, I found it more compelling. Now I forgot what my reason was though. Wait, give me 1 second. Maybe I can find it again.
Well, with the Americans, like they fear what they can't understand. that is the ultimate driving point for them in this film, is that they couldn't comprehend that it was their own race that caused a nuclear disaster and killed, what was it, like a million,
Yeah.
billion people, whatever.
Yeah,
They have to
2
blame
million, yeah.
something else. They have to.
Mm.
And for me, that was the driving point of the Americans, is that they just, as soon as they hook onto something in this film, and this is not me saying that Americans do that. This is just me saying the Americans in the creator. I'm not associating real Americans with Americans in the film, but in this film, like they're like the army fears what they don't understand, even though they have their own
Yeah.
AI research center, and that I can't. Oh, let me say this really quickly. How cool would it
Yeah.
have been? And this is another part where it's like one of my reasons. Like I've got like a list of like good and bad for the film. Story is
Yeah.
mid, characters are mid, Ali and Joshua's relationship is mid, and they never fully answer a question or come to a full like circle with any of the ideas they present. They present a lot of ideas, they never come full circle. And then one of the things that Alfie says all the time is, "I want to be free. I want us to be free. Be free. That we want to be free." Right? The thing is, in New
Yeah.
Asia, they're free. If they're being free from tyranny, maybe that. But it kind of seems like they're enslaved, right? That's what
Mhm.
Alfie's saying. What should have been that scene in Nomad where Alfie runs the AI research center and sees all of these AIs just like as robots, right? Does her thing where she
Mhm.
like controls them and lets them be free, and then brings them back onto the ship. Like that would be
Yeah.
full circle of that idea. But it feels like
Alfie's
there
arc.
are that's Alfie's arc, freeing the robots, right? Make her
Well,
the
I also meant
Jesus
like
of robots.
yeah. Arc.
Noah's Ark, yeah,
Not
yeah.
like because if you use the letters in Alfie, what anagram does it spell? Noah. It doesn't, but just imagine it would. With AI, we can change letters and names, so that's
Sure.
possible.
But yeah, like again,
Yes.
I just never feel like it goes full circle. But yeah,
Yeah.
like, and it presents so many cool ideas about AI and how, and I love the idea that the AI in this film was created by scanning the human brain. It's based on human ideas, and the AI
Yeah. Now
itself is.
I think I got my thought back again.
Go ahead. What's your
It's
thought?
like ultimately AI is the superior new race or the evolution, right? Of
I do pitch that
humans
idea.
that have kind of moved past this, where they are standing above the violence, where like the coexistence is something they can grasp because they like, more like less just better just better overall
They've gone
than
past their
humans.
physical existence, and it's funny because they're more
Yeah.
spiritual than what it seems. Like the AI seems more spiritual than what the humans are, from at least from a visual standpoint, because they have their own temple and they've got their own
Yeah.
priests and monks at that temple.
Well, what yeah, I think what it also was is that the mourning of death is just not really happening in the military, and we only see it through the military lens. I think we don't really see any just like normal people affected by it. Our only surrogate we get that is Joshua, who like lost his family in the LA blast. I think there's also not enough done with him realizing that the humans did the fuck up there. I don't remember when
Yeah.
it is brought up to him, but again, he's just a bit underused. Ultimately, he just like has a snappy backstory that he can talk to. He's connect to Maya, connected to the military through this, and he's in between worlds. But it doesn't feel like that whole thing gets explored enough for me, at least. Anything else you want to talk about with the creator?
I have so much to talk about, but I feel like
Yeah,
I won't be
well,
able to fit it
if
into a podcastable video.
yeah, so definitely give it a rewatch. And if you are still indecisive, and you haven't actually seen it, go support original cinema on a larger scale like this as well. I think it's one thing that is dying the most in the cinematic landscape, and once it comes around and it's actually good, you should definitely go support it. So, where do you arrive at as a rating for the creator, Lachlan?
So I was in love with it for a very long time. I sat on it and I
Mhm.
brought down my score, and then I brought it back up. So it was originally a 4. I brought it down to a 3, but I adjusted it a few hours later to a 3.5.
Okay. Interesting. Because I'm a bit more positive on it than you are. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. I feel like it's also closer to like a 3.5 than a 4.5, I'd say. But if I'm looking at the last couple of sci-fis that we've gotten, I wouldn't include Nope here because to me that is, I guess it is like a sci-fi. But the strongest ones of recent memory were Dune and Blade Runner, and it's definitely not as good as them, but it can be listed among them and not stand out like at
Yeah.
all. So if you're a fan of sci-fi, again, worth your time. But if you had to pair it up with another movie, make the AI double feature or some different topic, what would you pair up with it?
Above me, I've got 2 posters for 2 different sci-fi movies that I love. 2001: A Space Odyssey and Blade Runner 2049. But it wasn't either of those.
Yeah.
I had a really good one, and it was like, oh, this is excellent. I should say this.
iRobot.
Ewan, you go first.
All right.
While I quickly
so
scroll through my films.
That's so good. So I was thinking, the creator. Let's bring it back to the original creator and bow down to one and only savior of cinema, who recently has been saying that cinema is dying overall. It's really interesting with Martin Scorsese, who I think back in the 90s or 80s made The Last Temptation of Christ, the creator. So that's what I'm picking as a double feature. I haven't seen this film in I think 15 years, but that's my pick because I just kind of found it funny with religion.
I got it.
Like,
I know
what
what I
about
was
you?
going to recommend.
Yeah.
After the big old bomb, immediately my
Big
brain
old bomb.
goes, fuck, I should recommend Akira as my sci-fi
Yes.
double feature
Yes.
pick with this film.
Yes, I agree. That's a great pick. I love that. Another, like, such a ruthless world as well that
So
you just try to find humanity in the monstrous, in the huge way, like
That's a
lost.
5-star.
It's such an amazing movie. Yes, I just want to kind of steal that. I also want to pick Akira over my joke answer. But yeah, that's that. That's the double feature pick. If you want to watch something new this week, the biggest film releasing on October 6th is The Exorcist Believer. I've already seen it. I was kindly invited by Universal to a private screening here in Switzerland. It was really nice of them. But I can't talk about the movie yet, but we will be talking about it next week. There will also be a recap of the Zurich Film Festival. It's been one day, Lachlan, and guess how many movies I've already seen of the lineup?
20.
40. Double that.
What?
It's crazy.
Goddamn.
So I've seen 40 of the lineup already. It's a huge festival with lots of great titles, repeating titles from previous festivals. That's why it's so many. But we'll have a whole on recap for that next week. Anything else we should shout out? I guess our socials. I guess subscribe. If you made it all the way here, then you definitely enjoy more of this. So why not rate it 5 stars over on Apple and on Spotify? Why not follow? Why not turn on the notifications to get new videos as soon as they publish? So I want to say thanks so much for tuning in. And this is going to be a funny day for me, Lachlan.
It'll be a
Getting
long
up
day.
so
Yours is
early,
just
getting
starting.
about 4 hours.
I'm about to get on the beers, so ba.
Yes, enjoy your camping trip, and we will be back next week. Let us know what you thought of the creator, by the way, in the comments below. And yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.